This is an introduction to the Arabic Tanween, the Nunation, mark and sound system, part of the Learn Arabic series. What you learn in this lesson: you'll be presented to the Arabic Tanween and its different forms and sounds. You'll also learn some words that include Tanween within their spelling. Also, we'll present a spelling rule related to the Tanween case. The Tanween, similar to al-Ta'rif, which we explained in the previous lesson, can only be applied to nouns. So while al-Ta'rif is attached to the beginning of nouns, the Tanween can be applied only at the end of nouns. The Tanween is basically a double mark at the end of a noun. The case endings, these are the marks at the end of nouns, can actually change depending on the position of the word within the sentence. So, for example here, shamsu wa qamaru, this dhamma here can be changed sometimes to a fatha or a kasra depending on its case position. The Tanween is actually a doubling of the sign. So you see for the first line, I've doubled the dhamma at the end of these nouns. For the second line, I doubled the kasra. And for the last line, I doubled the fatha. Of course, when you double a fatha, you need to add an alif or attach an alif to the end of that word. That's a feature only for the Tanween al-Fath. Of course, as for pronunciation, you double the mark and pronounce it as if you have added a noon at the end of this noun. And that's why it's basically called Tanween, which means literally nunation, adding noon at the end of words. So let's read here the sentence or the phrase Shamsun wa qamaron with a double marking at the end. If we were to write it in letter forms, it would be Shamsun wa qamaron. So this is how it's pronounced, but the first two words is how it actually should be spelled. The same thing for the second line. قلم وكتاب, spelled with double marks. قلم وكتاب, spelled with letters. مدرسا ومهندسا, مدرسا ومهندسا. Once again, looking at the double marks cases. Okay. What happens sometimes, you'll see in textbooks or in handwritten text, is that people would place the Tanween Fath on top of the Alif. This is incorrect. It's a common mistake. Actually, you should always place the Tanween on the letter preceding the Alif. This Alif is vowelless. It shouldn't carry a sign. And so you cannot place the Tanween on top of it. This is just a common mistake that appeared with digital fonts. So sometimes you would be limited to certain features when you're writing in a certain font. Of course, there are numerous fonts now available that can correct the spelling mistakes, like the link to the Quran complex fonts, which I place on our forum. Now, these are the different forms that Tanween can appear in. So, as for the double dhamma, you see, you can place the dhammas right next to each other. Sometimes it looks like this, a dhamma with a bow on top of it, and a third time you will find it in this form. The Tanween, Fath and Kasr also can be they can be two placed above each other or slightly next to each other. One note is that the Tanween should not be applied to a noun that carries a definite article. So, for example, the first line, which is incorrect, it attaches the Alif Ta'rif to the beginning of the noun and applies a Tanween at the end. The same thing here, al-qamar, it's definite article at the beginning and tanween at the end of the noun. This is incorrect. So you either have one of them, you can't have both. The first line is incorrect. Ash-shamsu wal-qamarun is incorrect. You either only apply the tanween, so it becomes shamsun wa qamarun, or you attach the definite article. Ash-shamsu wal-qamaru. So having both is incorrect, but only one of them should be applied one at a time. Tanween can be applied to any Arabic noun, whether singular or plural. The two cases when it can't be applied is in the dual form or the masculine sound plural. Of course, in Arabic, if you want to form the dual form, you attach an alif nun to the end of it. The masculine sound plural, you attach a waw nun to the end of it. So you're actually adding nuns to the end of these nouns. So no need to double it by attaching a tanween. So as for this example here, the first one is correct, Muslimun, but the other two are incorrect. Muslimanun, that's a doubling of a nunation, no need. It sounds strange when you pronounce it. And Muslimunun, also a doubling of a nunation, waw nun and then tanween, is not accepted in Arabic. These are a few nouns, words that have tanween fixed within the structure of the word. So it has to be spelled by a tanween and not a nun. Since tanween is used actually to beautify speech, so we use it when we thank someone or welcome someone. The examples here in the first line are shukran jazilan. You see how the tanween is applied at the end of these words. It's pronounced noon, but it's incorrect if you write shukran with a noon. The correct spelling is to have it with a tanween. Shukran jazilan. The reply to the Arabic thanks is afwan. So if anyone were to tell you shukran, you would reply afwan. The Arabic welcoming phrase, I'm sure you're familiar with, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaban. They also include tanweens at the end of them. Of course, there are words like hasanan, tab'an. Hasanan is like the okay. Tab'an means of course. Ghadan, also it's spelled with a tanween, it means tomorrow. Other Arabic nouns which include tanween in their structure, in their spelling, other Arabic nouns of frequency, they are da'iman, meaning always, ghaliban, meaning usually, ahyanan is sometimes, adatan, often, and abadan is never. Finally, we'll explain a spelling rule related to the tanween fath. Remember we said if we were to double the fatha, the tanween fath in the end of a noun, we would have to attach an alif to it. There are exceptions to that. These are exceptions, the following are the exceptions. So the first line, these are nouns with ta marbuta at the end of them. So if ta marbuta is written at the end of the noun, you do not add an alif to it. Just apply the tanween. So rahmatan wasi'atan can be written only this way. It's incorrect to add an alif to the end of it. So the words in red are the incorrect form, the incorrect spelling. The second line reads fatan and asan. These also the alif maqsura. These nouns have an alif maqsura at the end of them. This is the non-dotted ya. So if you were to apply a tanween here, you leave it as it is. You do not add the alif, but just apply the tanween at the end of it. So this is the correct form, while if spreading it and attaching an alif would be incorrect. Naba'an, the last two lines actually, it's an alif with on top of it a hamza or an alif beside it a hamza. In these cases also, you don't need to add another alif. It's already there at the end of the word. So it would be spelled correctly naba'an and saba'an. So the incorrect would be to add an alif to it. And ma'an, sama'an, this is the correct spelling of these words, while the incorrect one would be attaching an alif after the tanween. Other exceptions to the spelling of alif with the tanween fath is not about adding the alif or not, it's about how best to attach the alif to the noun. So we'll look at these examples. Juzu here, the first word juzu, it ends with a hamza sitting on the line, while the letter before it is a non-connector. I mean, this letter cannot be connected to the letter after it. So juzu, when applying a tanween fath, we add an alif to this word, but it will be in its standalone form, so it would not be connected to the hamza in any way. This is why. It's because the letter preceding the hamza is a non-connector. The same thing with the second word, though. So though here ends with a hamza sitting on the line, and the letter preceding it is a non-connector, so it will not be connected to any letter. So when we apply the tanween fath, we add the alif in its standalone form, while the hamza still sits on the line. So these are, as for the first two examples, they're quite simple. You're just adding a separate alif. As for the third example, shay. Now shay ends with the hamza, sitting on the line, but the letter preceding it, the ya, is a connector, so it can be connected to any letter after it. So what we do is add a nabira after the ya. This is a nabira is a vertical point. It's similar to the rule of a non-dotted ya. So we add the nabira after the ya, where the hamza is placed on, apply the tanween, and attach an alif to that nabira. So it's like all connected letters here. So shay in this form becomes shay'an in its connected form after applying the tanween. Shay'an, of course, shay means something. So this is the correct way to spell it. This is the incorrect way to spell it. So this is adding a separate alif without connecting letters together. Okay, finally, the last word, buto. It's buto, hamza on the line with a connector before it. So what would happen? We would add the nabira and place the hamza on top of it, apply the tanween, and attach the alif to it. It has to be all connected together. So this is the correct spelling of but'an, meaning to be slow, and the incorrect way is to spell it separately. Okay. شكرا جزيلا.